go.
It's a collector on the corner there. One of my subscribers was wanting us to do a video on this old Chevrolet here. And I don't know what year it is, late 20s, early 30s, somewhere in there. And this engine right here, it's got that Chevrolet emblem on there, and it's got these numbers, 33550 and E280 and then a 16. I don't know what year it is. Got that cute little bitty distributor on that.
Yeah, that's a cutie.
And a water pump. It's got one that got a spanner nut right there to tighten the water pump up, keep it from leaking.
Cool.
Anyway,
I like the
it came with
radiator.
It came
Cool.
with mechanical brakes. See that right there? There was a cam there that'd move your brake shoes out like on an air brake truck.
Wow, that's
As
weird.
somebody once said, you know, them mechanical brakes had none of that pesky, leaky hydraulic fluid. But anyway, we bought this at an auction. And the engine's not stuck, and we'll go around the other side, and I'll show you the greatest feature about this thing.
And what is that, darling?
Well, I'll show it to you when we get around
All
here.
right.
If we can navigate this obstacle course.
Yep.
Anyway, see, there's part of that mechanical brakes had cables
Cool.
to operate that. It's got a draft carburetor on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
water
weird.
had got in there, and that bowl had split and leaked, and that boy of mine, Chris, he claimed this thing when he was little. He put some JB weld on there and cleaned that carburetor and got it fired and got it running. And he had on the front here, he put the hubs and that off of a 53 or 4 Chevrolet car. Had 5-hole wheels on the front and 6 holes on the back. He had it running and never had no brakes. It's got that cute little castellated oil fill cap with a little bitty dipstick. Still got oil in it.
Yeah, that's a
Engine's
cute
not
dipstick.
stuck.
That's cute.
Carburetor's not froze up. Choke and all that work. Be
Mhm.
sure it chokes close. But what saved this engine is it had that updraft carburetor. It couldn't rain down in it.
Uh-huh.
Most engines, that's what happens to them. It rains down the carburetor or it rains down the exhaust. And this got downdraft exhaust and updraft carburetor, so it never rained in it. And see, you can see the other side of that water pump, it's got a little deal right there. You screw that out,
Mhm.
and you put grease in there, and then as you're running it, you can tighten that up until grease comes out. But see that water pump and the bearing?
That's cute.
All these years, it's still just as tight as it could be.
That's cute.
Got that old honeycomb radiator. And what it was,
Yeah, I like the radiator. That's cool.
at that estate sale where I bought this, there was a sawmill.
Mhm.
And that guy had rigged this up, and he had a wooden bed on it and a wooden seat on here.
Yep.
And he had a cutoff saw blade back here. And somehow he would jack it up and make that back tar run that cutoff saw. And he saw his slabs up off his logs
Uh-huh.
in the slab wood. And, you know, this was back in the 50s, maybe the 40s even.
Mhm.
And everybody used slab wood for cookwood for their wood cook stove.
Yep.
Well, then he'd drive that down to the little town of Ravenden. He was just out of town a mile or two. And he'd deliver that slab wood around, sell that slab wood around town. That's part of his living. But he made a hoopty out of the old car. It was in rough shape when we got it. We pulled the transmission out. You can look down there, the transmission's gone.
Yeah.
It's got a pull type clutch, like semi-trucks has got too. Anyway, we pulled that transmission out because
Mhm.
the main countershaft in the transmission,
Mhm.
the bearings had apparently went out on it, and he had centered them up and poured Babbitt in there. The old races was still in there, but no balls was in there.
Mhm.
But he'd poured that full of Babbitt, And that Babbitt wore egg shape after we run it around for a little while, and the main counter shaft dropped away from the front drive input shaft. All we had was high gear. We took it apart. I was always going to try and turn that down, find some bearings, have the case, water the case out some too. Find some bearings we could put in there and fix that. And it's one of the things we never did get around to. But you can see the dash there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Did you show the dash, did
Yeah, I showed the dash. I think it's
Okay. But anyway.
what if that's actual miles on it?
Well, maybe.
Maybe get down here and maybe we can see it better.
Sometime or another he backed into a tree at speed. Because right there,
oh, jeepers.
There's a pretty good dent in that right there.
Yeah, I see it. If I can get over there without killing myself. I lost my shoe.
Anyway, it's an old hoopty. It had one of them push pedal starters, and there's the throttle. It just pushed on that. Well, it was something fun to play with. Me and the kids played with it when they was little. I guess that Chris was about 9 years old when he messed with this.
Yeah, he drove it. I remember when it had one hubcap on it, and the hubcap flew off going down the hill.
Yeah, we had it on the back of the wrecker, and we aired the tires up that's on the back, and he stuck a hubcap on one of them tires. And we was coming down a big hill over there, and that hubcap flew off and did like a frisbee, and we seen it sailing way over the hill. Well, later on, when he got to be a teenager, he drove his motorcycle over, and he searched that whole hillside, mountainside off, looking for his hubcap. He never did find that old hubcap.
I remember, poor boy.
But that day, I guess I bought every car there. I bought a 59 Mercury, black, 2-door post. Didn't have a dent or a scratch on it.
I remember
it didn't have a rear end under it. They pulled that 9-inch rear end, but still had a 312 motor and automatic transmission in it, radiator and all that. And the inside of it was packed completely full of them brown-colored Clorox bottles. All the way full. And I pulled the engine, transmission, radiator out of it, snatched up on the truck and took it down there to Shannon Salvage and sold it for about $50. Anyway, wish I'd kept it. It's perfect body. Didn't get no titles on anything there that day. I bought a 51 Chevrolet car, 2-door post, 6-cylinder stick, and I got it running, but that car had a tall geared rear end for some reason. It went 90 mile an hour in first gear. It must have been an automatic geared rear end or something. I sold that to no
Maybe
friend
that
of
old
mine.
geezer hot rodded it.
And then there was a 49 there, 2-door post. And I had it, look, all that stuff I went to bring it home. And one of the first ones I brought home was a 54 Ford Victoria, had a Y block in it. And the back glass was broke out of it. And it was rusty back there. And the trunk was rusty. And it was full of leaves and stuff. It been a pack rat nest that had rotted down or whatever. And we had it on the record, and we was going down the road, and there was a little gravel lane led out to the main highway. And the kid said, "Dad, there's stuff falling out of the trunk of that car." So I get out of the old Bob truck. We had that Bob truck with a winch sling on it back then. I get out there, and I look, and there's these little rattlesnakes about this long, little pygmy rattlers. They're falling out of the trunk of this car. They're denned up in there. So I get me a long stick. I crawl up on that trunk. I ain't afraid of snakes if I can see them. And I stirred them leaves. And it just come alive. It was getting up in the time of year when they go to denning. And it was just alive with rattlesnakes.
Gee, thanks, Daddy.
It'd make a lot of people happy to have that many snakes.
No, not me.
Anyway, so that's the first one. We determined them cars was denned up full of rattlesnakes. We said, we ain't bringing them home. So we took them over to our other place over there. We didn't live there then. We lived on up here. And we took them over there and stashed them over in that place. And that's where he went, and he'd go over and work on this when we was over. I'd go over and chainsaw, and Chris would take his tools. He'd work on it, and he got this running and played with it. Anyway, I turned around and I sold that old 49 two-door coupe in that 54 Ford to Ben Enos. And he come over and got him on his wrecker and took him over to his salvage yard. He had about 5,000 cars at one time. Anyway, he took that old 54 Ford Victoria over there. It's a hardtop. And he told me after that he began to find them pygmy rattlesnakes all around his place. So them rattlesnakes was there. And then when we moved over to that other place, we killed pygmy rattlesnakes for 3 or 4 years around there. We find one occasionally. You know, I imagine there's still some more around, but you know, they're a little bitty short snake.
Yeah, I remember them.
But anyway, and I bought the sawmill. They come up there and it looked like what's in the back of that truck right there, only worse. Blackberries and persimmon bushes and everything.
You're a goober.
And they said, there's a sawmill right there we're going to sell. So I bought it for $75. And we took the old winch and we drug it out. There was even a Minneapolis Moline power unit went with that sawmill that was buried up in there. But we drug that sawmill out.
And all the free snakes you can stand.
I took it. I did eventually get that sawmill all put together off of wood and put it on steel. And we sawed on it a little bit, but it was never, I don't know, it just never was what it should have been. Thinking back on it, I think the saw mandrel was probably a little bit warped or something. It never ever sawed like it should. It just aggravating. And then I didn't have a lot of money to take that saw and maybe all what it took was to take the saw blade and have it hammered and redid. You know, the saw blade may have been bad, but I saw it on it. It saw big stuff. We wouldn't saw little stuff or saw boards very good.
Well, you didn't saw enough to make it worth your while.
No,
I remember
for the
that.
labor I put in it. But sawmilling can be that way, you know. But it was
the trees
American
were safe around
feed.
you, that's for sure.
American friction feed was kind of sawmill. I put it on an old 46 Ford truck frame. I'd been better off left that truck together instead of junking my good truck. But I bought all the cars there and drug them all off and everything. And that guy had died, and somebody rented that house come wintertime, right after I bought all them cars. About Christmas time, they moved in there. They built a fire in the stove. And after that 6th snake, when that house began to warm up, come crawling out along in the living room, that was it. That woman said, I'm gone. And they moved back out of the house, and nobody ever lived in that house again. They tore it down. But I guess all them little pygmy rattlesnakes had denned up in that house. But people told me that old guy wouldn't kill them snakes, that he'd walk around with a hook stick, and if there was a rattlesnake in his path, he'd pick it up on his stick and set it off to the side and walk on past it. You know, but that's what people told me about him. I don't know. I never was acquainted with him. But anyway, maybe some of y'all can tell me a little more about that. It's got one of the deals here too, the whole windshield. All fancied up, got a point on it like a Russian building. I don't know what year it is. I don't know everything about everything.
You don't? Jiminy crickets, really?
I'm kind of a know-it-all, but I don't know it all about this.
Yeah, you are a know-it-all.
But I don't know if we'll ever do anything with it. We might. You never know. Just depends how long you live. So I guess that'll be all for this old video. We'll catch you on the next one. Good luck. Goodbye to you.
Thank y'all, and please like and subscribe. Bye.